to himself again. And then when man claims that he takes on his wife, remember? He has a board meeting here, doesn't he? No. When he wants to kick man out of Gan Eden, because he might eat from that other tree, remember what he says? You can look in your Chumash if you want.
Adam will be like one of us.
Yeah, he says, Adam will be like one of us, right? Hein Adam haya kechad mimenu l'dat tofara, which means he's talking to his board members again. Understand? Chumash is, we don't understand exactly what that means, but Chumash is making a big deal about it, isn't it? Sometimes he talks to himself, and at key moments in his relationship with man, he talks to his board members. You with me? Now, we don't understand what that is, but Chumash is making a big deal about it. Now, does he ever talk to himself again after that? God. Before the flood, want to take a quick look? Look in Perek Vav. We'll do a quick little tour. In Perek Vav Pasuk Hey. You can take my word for it. Before the flood, God talks to himself. I think maybe even to his heart. What's he say? Yeah. God sees how bad society is and everything. And what's God say? Okay. He regrets what he did. Remember? God sees how bad man is. Okay? And God says, and that Yetzer Hara is only bad all the time. And then he says, I'm going to destroy. When the flood's over, what does God do? Noach brings a korban. And God again talks to himself. And what's he say? He regrets that he regretted. And promises not to do that again. That's the best example of what we call anthropomorphism. Yeah. He speaks to his heart. But we do you know humans who do things, are sorry what they did, and then they regret that they regretted, and say they're not going to do that again? Isn't that a great model? If we're B'Tselem Elokim? Anyway, that's a different topic, but I just want to point out, Chumash is describing God in human terms, so we can relate to God. That's the point. Now, now let's continue. Does God ever talk to himself again? I think, remember man's living too long? Remember that story with the, I think doesn't God say again, 120 years is enough? Again, God talks. And then I think by Migdal Bavel, remember that story from a couple weeks ago? Does God talk again? Yeah. To who? He's got another board meeting, right? Now, in the first 11 chapters, 3 times God talks to his board members. Who are they? We don't know. They're not human. And when he makes man, when he throws them out of Gan Eden, and when he scatters them into civilization. Correct? Those are key moments. And in between, over and over again, he's always talking to himself. That's in the first 11 chapters. And then it never happens again, except in our topic today. Got it? It's for my introduction. All I want to show you is that in Chumash, for some reason, Chumash is highlighting in the first 11 chapters, which are universal, God always talking to himself, and often in key points in relation to man, talking what they call the royal we, or the plural, and I like to call that to his board members. You'll see why I'm saying that in a minute. You know a shul with board members? They have that, I guess. I had a friend who, got a contract, I think called tenure or something like that, and he had to give a speech. So I told him, your speech, say, I don't want any board members. That was supposed to be the pun. And he really meant B-O-A-R-D, but people thought he meant B-O-R-E-D. Now, but seriously, what I'm getting at, in the first 11 chapters, which are universal, God is always talking to himself, and the key points talks, before he makes a decision, he enjoins others, board members, in making that decision. It never happens again, except in Parsha Vayera, in the beginning. And then we're going to find the last time God talks to himself. Got that? In the entire Torah. Understand? Now, is he talking to his board members? We have to see. But the last time he talks to himself, we're going to see very soon, and it relates to the story of Sedom and Avraham, what you guys called praying. Now, back to, did the rabbis learn prayer from Avraham Avinu? Yeah. Which prayer? Shachrit. Remember Chazal say Tefillah Keneged Avot? Anyone remember what pasuk they learned that from? Yeah, it's like that. That's the proof for Hashkama Minyan. Yeah, no. We thought Hashkama Minyan, we don't want to hear the rabbi's speech, right? In other words, but he gets up in the morning. Now, that pasuk didn't say he davened. It seems like he davened the day before. But the rabbis learn from that pasuk. No, they don't. They learn, they're bringing a pasuk from that topic. Got my point? When the rabbis quote a pasuk, they're assuming you studied the whole unit. Understand? And when they pick a certain pasuk, they're onto something. I'll give you one quick, I'll give you one really bad example, but it's important. The rabbis hold that pru urvu is a commandment, don't they? Now, is that a commandment for all humankind or just for the Jewish people? So, if you read Chumash, what would you answer? It's for Bnei Noach, because it says it twice to Bnei Noach, doesn't he? We read that in Parshat Noach. If you open up the Talmud, what do the rabbis say?
It's not in this. It's not
Only for us. Only for half of us. Which is really doesn't make sense because the mother gives the baby. But now I need a verse to say it's a commandment. What verse do they quote? Does God ever say pru urvu? He tells the fish on day 5 pru urvu, doesn't he? And they listen, don't they? You see guppies? They're experts. Okay? And when he makes man, he says pru urvu. Right? And then he tells Noach twice pru urvu after the flood. But the word that precedes is always by varech. Remember? But for some reason, God's talking to Noach. Anyone know what pasuk they do quote for pru urvu? Not day 5 and not day 6. So take a quick look if you have your Chumash open. I just want to show you how the rabbis are onto something big. Right? Yeah, look in Perek Tet, pasuk Aleph, and tell me who God's talking to. Perek Tet. Again, God blesses who? Noach and his sons, and tell them what? Pru urvu. And they listen, don't they? Because they're commanded? I guess so. Or maybe it's a blessing. But it's not. Now, then, for some reason, then we have, remember Pasuk Vav? Shofech Dam Adam? This is called the Sefer Noachai laws, isn't it? Every Menachem is here. The rabbis, for some reason, think there has to be 7. Now go fill in. There's got to be 7, now go fill in the table. But look at the last line, which is superfluous. Look at Pasuk Zayin. See that? Vatem pru urvu shirtu bar tzuruba. See that extra line in Pasuk Zayin? Why is that superfluous? Because he said it in Pasuk Aleph. Now, if you know Chumash, it's called an envelope structure, or like a mini chiasm. That happens a lot in Chumash. But if I just read regular, that seems to be superfluous. Now, Vatem pru urvu, that sounds more like a command. So in the Talmud, it's easy to remember. It's I think Sanhedrin at Daf Nun Chet. Why is that easy to remember?
No.
Okay, because it's in Parshat Noach. That happened totally by chance, but it works out. Nice way to remember. Now, what are the rabbis saying? That pasuk is not God talking to Noach. God finishes talking to Noach in pasuk Vav. And who's Chumash talking to in pasuk Zayin? To you, to the reader. You see how the rabbis read that midrashically? Vatem, no, it's God finishes talking to Noach. Shofech dam adam b'adam dam yishofech ki b'tzelem hu masata adam. That's closure. Close quotation mark. Oh, you at Har Sinai, are you reading this book? Vatem, pru urvu. Now, the rabbis learned it from that pasuk, which is not pshat, that's for sure, because there's no Jewish people yet. But the rabbis are sure there's a commandment to have children, correct? But they need a pasuk. Now, if you read last week, we entered a covenant called Brit Milah, and we entered what's called a Brit Olam. You know what that is? An eternal covenant between God and the people. You read about that, didn't you? And in Har Sinai, we made it official, didn't we? Beinu b'nei Yisrael, oti la'olam. Remember, Shabbat is a Brit Olam. We entered a Brit Olam to be God's people forever. And God says, made a shvuah, He can't break that Brit. Remember, Shvuto Yitzchak? God makes a covenant with us. It's a Brit Olam. You said it this morning. Zichru Olam Brito. Tavatziv Elepdor. You said that. You know it by heart, don't you? Now, how can an individual fulfill a Brit Olam if they don't live forever? Understand? Because Abev Esrim, it said so. Therefore, part of being Jewish is keeping it going. And the only way you can be a member of a nation to fulfill Brit Olam is doing your best to keep it going, which includes having children. So logically, it has to be a mitzvah, Understand? It's only logical that the Jewish people, because of Brit Sinai, they have to have children. Now I need a pasuk. Understand? So what pasuk did they pick? This one. You know why? First of it's about Tem. Is there a strange word in pasuk Zion? Shirtzu. That's really strange, right? God didn't tell that to the fish. Pretty sure. What's the thing? This is a new one. Does that ever come up again in Chumash? In the beginning, what's it say there? Uvnei Yisrael, Paru, Vayirbu, V'yatzmu Bod Ma'od. Now, see what the rabbis are onto? I just want to share with you how the rabbis work. When the rabbis do a drasha, they're onto something really big. And sometimes the pasuk isn't pshat, but something much deeper than pshat. Why do I do that? When the rabbis say V'yashkem Avram Baboker is tefillah, shacharit, they're onto something big. And it's not because of that pasuk, it's because of the whole unit. Okay, that was my introduction. Now we'll get to work. Okay. Now, you all told me that what? That God told Avraham, I'm going to destroy Sedom, right? So we're going to see where that is. But look at Perek Yudchet for a minute, and here's the reason I wanted you to have a full Tanakh Koren. Okay. Look at Perek Yudchet, Parsha Vayera. And remember Parshiyot, that's why I want you to have a Koren Tanakh, where you see them very, very clearly. Okay. Look how long the Parshiyah, not the Sedra, but the Parshiyah. It starts in Perek Yudchet Pasuk Aleph, and where's it go to? End of what chapter? Oh, it goes all the way into Perek Chaf almost, right? The chapter divider made a bit of a mistake there. But it goes all the way, all of chapter 18, all chapter 19, and the first line of chapter 20. Agreed? That's way too long to be a paragraph, isn't it? Now, whenever that happens, see that? All chapter 18 and 19 is one big parshiah, which means something connects everything together even though it's too long to be a paragraph. Whenever Chumash does that, it's telling you something. Now, what's the first topic? Look carefully. What's the first topic in Perek Yudchet? If you had to sort of, you're working for now it's a Magid place, I guess. This is a Koren neighborhood. So I can't say art school, I have to say working for Matthew, I guess. He's still in charge, Matthew? No, Matthew? Never mind. Yeah, okay. Yeah, if you were working and you had to, put the little things on the side and make paragraphs in the English translation, what would you call the first topic? Yeah. It's called Hachnasas Orchim, correct? How many psukim? Take a quick look. How many psukim talk about Avraham and Sarah, the power couple, the Hachnasas Orchim? No, which ones focus on Hachnasas Orchim?
19.
No. Including 8 for sure. 9 is already the transition.
19.
Yeah. No, but the first 8 psukim highlight, except maybe the first one. Because what's the first one? It's boiling hot out. It's boiling hot, and Avram's going outdoors to get a fresh breeze, maybe, right? Okay. What does Rashi say?
Third day of the Brit.
No. What's Rashi say? Why is he going outdoors? Even though it's boiling hot outside, he's looking for Orchim. Where did Chazal get that from? Because they read the next 7 psukim. Understand? That's what Rashi is saying is almost, it's the pshat of his drush. Because in pshat, he's outdoors because it's hot. And he needs a breeze. But when the super pshat, what's going on, if everything else is emphasizing Hachnasat Orchim, then maybe the first one is also. Okay? Now, but the main topic is, the first topic is Hachnasat Orchim, which is nice, but we don't have any other example of such detailed story of people doing Hachnasat Orchim in Chumash, I'm pretty sure. That I remember. Maybe Lavan and Betuel when Eliezer came, but that was a business deal. No. What? Lot in the mini version, but they're not a power couple.
Right.
Yeah. He makes matzah. Yeah, he's better than his neighbors, but it's not the same. If I had on TripAdvisor, the meal, Avram's restaurant, put loads to shame, right? Unless you're traveling on Passover, then maybe only Lod has a kosher for Pesach bakery. Now, remember she's making ugot, right? That's not good for Pesach. Now back to Now we get back to our topic. What are we doing? The first topic. What's the next topic? Okay. The news of having a child, and as we like to say, it's no laughing matter. Okay. Now, what's the next big topic? Look at Pasuk Tet Zayin is a transition, right? Sedom. And what does happen? Look at Pasuk Tet Zayin. Ve'akumu misham anashim v'yashkifu al pnei Sedom. V'Avraham holech imam l'shalcham. Right? If you've been to Hebron, high up on the hill, you can look down. You see a nice clear day. You can see the area of the Dead Sea. You can see Moab on the other side, but you see what's called Kikar Yarden. But they're looking, and I'll show you in a minute what the next pasuk should be. The next pasuk should be pasuk Chaf. Got it? I want to skip from pasuk. Actually, I can give you a source sheet in a minute. I want to skip from pasuk Yutet. I'm sorry, pasuk. What we're saying? From pasuk Tet Zayin right to pasuk Chaf. Let me explain you why. Okay? In pasuk Tet Zayin, Avraham stands up with the three men who are visiting and walks, and they're overlooking Sedom, and skip the next three psukim, and then Vayomer Hashem. Now Hashem has spoken before, hasn't he? But Hashem is one of the three. How do we know that? When they give the news of Sarah's thing, remember? Yeah. And who yells at Sarah for laughing? Which has to be one of the Malachim. Yeah. Now, you know why they're sort of a timeout? I hope I can share. I guess I share this with you. You're all adults. Why are they? Don't you feel bad for Sarah? It's bad enough, she hasn't had a child, and they tell her, and then she starts laughing, and then say, "How come you're laughing?" Why are they angry with her, and why? For what reason? You understand? Now, the way I understand the story, are they coming with the ultrasound? Tell me why they're not. Yeah, and another reason, because they don't say your wife is expecting. What did they say?
In a year from now.
In a year from now. Do the math. And she's not expecting, right? Now, is there a good chance they've given up? Are they old already? Okay. We're talking to ourselves, okay? Now, and it makes sense that what? And therefore, forget it. You follow? Okay. And therefore, if she laughs, it won't happen. Because only in the New Testament things like that happen miraculously. You understand? We're still in the Old Testament. Okay? Now, what you learn from there is encouragement. For a couple having trouble having children, that's a different topic, but it's super important. If you know the psychology behind it. But their job, you understand their job? Their job is not to make a prediction. Their job is to make it happen. You understand? And therefore, what bothers them the most, they come in, who don't they see? Yeah, how come she's not here, right? They don't want to know. They want to know where she is. They want to know why she's not here. Remember, ayeh doesn't mean where you are, but why aren't you here? Know the difference? If I'm looking where something is, where are my keys? Why isn't something here? That's ayeh. Remember, man hides from God. Ayeka. Right? Yosef's looking for his brothers. Eifo him ro'im. Yitzchak's walking for barbecue, right? And usually there's an animal when you go for a barbecue. And they're walking, and there's fire, and there's wood, and everything. And then what's he ask? Yeah. He doesn't want to know where it is. He wants to know why it's not here. You follow? Now, that's part of his prayer, by the way. And what's God answer? God will provide. No, that's Avram's prayer. But if we have time, we'll go back to that. Now let's get back to our topic, okay? Now, the next topic was the news of stuff. But when I did that all to show that Hashem is one of the three Malachim. Right? So one stays with Avram to do what? To talk to him, we'll say in a minute, on behalf of God. The other two go down to check out Sedom, right? Now, let's read again from Pasuk Tet Zayin and go right to Chaf. Again, Vayikumu misham anashim v'yashkifu al pnei Sedom, v'Avraham holech ilam shalcham, Pasuk Chaf, Vayomer Hashem, Tzakat Torah v'amar ki rabba, v'chatam ki kavda me'od. Right? They tell, oh, by the way, you see down there? That's a really evil society down there. There's a cry of oppression from Sedom. Tzaka is something bad. There's something wrong with that society. We'll see tons of examples. Zaka is even better. Zaka is even stronger than tzaka. Basically, tzaka is when Zakah is like tzedakah is like instant. Zakah is like an overall situation that's bad. It's more continuous. Zakah is like one specific. But zakah is always harder than tzedakah. Now, then they say what? It's bad. Okay. Erdana ve'ereh. Pasuk Chaf Aleph. Who's talking? Hashem again. On the Baal Hashem. I'm going to go down and check it out. Hatzakata ba'ilai osu kala v'imlo ida. Is that I'm going to destroy stone, or I'm going to check it out? Right? God didn't tell Avraham, I'm destroying stone. You follow? God is telling Avraham Avinu, I'm sending two shlichim, or later I think in Perek Yutet they're called malachim, even though now they're anashim, aren't they? In Perek Yutet they're anashim because they're anashim. But when they're sent by God to do a job, they're called now malachim. But two are going down to check out the city to see, is it beyond repair, yes or no? Right? Kala here doesn't mean a bride. What's kala here mean? Like by chulu, I think? It's like, is it complete or finished? What? Yeah. Basically, is stone a lost cause or is it repairable? How is God going to check? God hasn't decided yet. God is deliberating whether he should or not. Is that clear? God doesn't tell Avraham, I've decided. God didn't say, I sent the B-52s already. Got it? Try and stop me now, okay? And Avraham says, no. No, don't, whatever it was.
No. Can't you ask it from where he is? Why does he have to actually go down? Can't see it from where he's standing?
Because they're getting their final exam. What's their final exam? He's going to send two anashim down, and they pretend to be transients. Correct? And does anyone invite them in? Nobody. I'm going to follow Ramban. I think it was the main shot here. He says, what happens? There's a law in Sedom that if someone dares to invite a stranger, what happens? Everyone gets an SMS demonstration. Got it? And there'll be the drum, the whole thing. You follow? Because there's a law in Sedom, no guests allowed. Because what will happen? If Lot harbors a guest, what will happen? Right? What? I'll give you a bad example from Shul. If Shul allows soliciting during davening, you follow? And people give the guy tzedakah, two guys, what's going to happen the next day? There'll be 10 people, right? And next day, there'll be 15, right? And you want to give tzedakah, and then you can't daven anymore. Now, that any Shul rabbi, that is a tremendous dilemma, right? It's a real dilemma, but you understand the logic of both sides. So you have a board meeting. And put someone else in charge. Now, what I'm getting at is there's a rule in Sedom because it's a nice place, according to Pasuk in Yechezkel, that the people in Sedom have this gated community. They don't let any. There's a law, no guests allowed. If you don't like it, go live somewhere else. Got it? In our community, that's the way things are. Now there's a newcomer, Lot, that could afford to get in. Right? He made the down payment because he's wealthy, thanks to his uncle. But he comes in, but he has a minhag of what? Achnasat orchim. And then he harbors these guests, and what happens? The whole now is it a couple? Is a bunch of thugs outside his door, or the entire city? It's the entire city from young to old, isn't it? And there's no counter protest, is there? Understand? There's no two protests going on. There's one, not even 10 people on the other side of the street. Okay? It means the entire city from young to old, and everyone agrees no guests allowed. Now, what I'm getting at, it can't be that 1,000 people, young to old, want to rape two men. You follow? But the entire city has a law, no guests allowed, and when there's a real issue that's burning, that people are really angry about, everyone comes in. Understand? So that's what's happening. I follow Ramban, which is the Mishnah in Perkei Avot, isn't it? What's Minhag Sedom? Remember? What's Shalish Shalcha Shalcha? Chazal says Minhag Sedom, what we call raw capitalism. Right? And it's not a transgression, it's a way of life. Right? And there's logic to it. But it's not what God wants from us. Now, the topic has to be related because the first topic in this big unit is Hachdasat Orchim, isn't it? So there's got to be a connection between Hachdasat Orchim and the story of Lot, because at the end of the day, who is saved? Lot. Did he do Hachdasat Orchim? Big time, right? And it's It's emphasized. If we have time, we'll get to it. Now, if that's the case, then what's happening? Avram, I'm sorry, God hasn't decided yet. God is in the middle of making a decision. But before he makes his decision, what's he want to do? He wants to share his deliberation with who? With his new board member. Okay? Now you understand my point? Why I did that whole introduction? Because it's the last time we're going to find that God will talk to himself, and now I can give you... I don't like giving out source sheets at the beginning because then no one pays attention. Okay, so pass these around. We don't need them yet, but this will highlight something. Pass those around.
Does Avraham know that he's talking to God at that point?
I don't know. I'm gonna.
It's very sharp.
Yeah, it could be. I have to check the polygraph. I'm not sure if he's telling. It's we put it this way. What difference does it make?
Then if not, then who is he talking to?
He's talking to someone representing God.
Does he know that?
I'm assuming. Has God ever talked to him before? Yeah, pass these. Anyone have? Anyone have speak? Yeah, pass these to that. Yeah, pass these around. But you can share a couple. This should be. God talked to me. He takes that, but it says, I'm assuming if it says Hashem, he realizes it's God. Chazal say it must be God because Hashem already talked to him about the birth of a child. Yeah, beforehand. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now, take a look at the page I gave you on the front page. Okay. Got a little marches off of it. Okay. Now, what I try to highlight on the page is, remember I showed you, Pasuk Tet Zayin, right, goes right to Pasuk Chaf. That's why it says Vayomer Hashem without saying who God's talking to, because clearly God's talking to Avraham Avinu, because Avraham responds in Pasuk Chaf Gimel. And what God says in Pasuk Chaf, Avraham responds to in Pasuk Chaf Gimel, which means Chaf, God's talking to Avraham, but doesn't say that. Why? Because it's clearly he's talking to Avraham because of Pasuk Tet Zayin. But if I read in order from Tet Zayin to Chaf, it's clear God's talking to Avraham as the guests are leaving. Good? Now, before the story continues, we have what I call the deep voice narrator interrupting the narrative. Got that? If you know, watch movies, it's Morgan Freeman. In other words, what happens sometimes that you're in the middle of a story or a narrative, and then I have to interrupt the narrative with information that you need to know before the story continues. Got that? Chumash does it quite often, but this is a great example of it. In other words, we're in the middle of a story. If I'm taping this, you don't see Pasuk Yud Zayin to Yud Tet. If I'm putting this on in a play, the three men on their way out, and then they talk to Avraham Avinu. Now, the narrator of Chumash is telling the reader, there's something you need to know before you continue reading. Because what's God about to do? God's about to make a decision, and before he makes that decision, he has to share his deliberation with who? Avraham. Why? Chumash tells us. Okay? Pasuk Yud Zayin. Have it? Vashem Amar, translate that for me. Yeah, that's a bad translation. And a better translation should say, the Lord had said. Vayomer Hashem is God said. Vashem Amar is God had said. Remember, whenever the verb comes before the noun, Badam Yadat Chava Ishto, it's called past perfect. Okay? And then, it happens a lot. The Parshim talk about it. But in a nutshell, Vashem Amar means God had said, as opposed to Vayomer Hashem, God said. This is something God had said to who? To himself. Which is the last time God talks to himself. You follow that? What's he say? God says to himself, I can't hide from Avram what I'm about to do. What's God about to do? No! What's God about to do? Not to destroy Sedom. God's about to make a decision, right? And he says, I have to share my decision making with Avram. Now, if you didn't read any farther, why would someone think that Avram needs to know what's about to happen in Sedom? What's that have to do with Avram Avinu? His nephew's there, right? Maybe he cares. I would expect that to be the next line. We don't hear a word about Lot here. What's it say instead? Oh, this person read Parsha Lech Lecha, right? One day, some 400 years from now, right, we're going to become a Goy Gadol. Correct? In Egypt. And we become a nation in Egypt, don't we? Now, and when we become a nation, we can bring blessing to all humankind through how we behave. Where do we hear that the first time? The first time God spoke to Avraham Avinu, Lech lecha me'aretzecha, remember, V'eschal legoy gadol, V'albarecha ba'gala shmech v'yeh bracha, and then V'nivruchu v'chal kol mishpot adama, which in Pshat means, through your behavior, I can bring blessing to all humankind. You can be a nation that sets a model for other nations to learn from. A blessing is enabling someone to fulfill their potential. Remember the Rabbi said, how do you bless a tree? You should have good fruit. A blessing is someone to fulfill a real Rebbe, a real Hasidic Rebbe, gets a blessing from his Rebbe for direction what to do with his life. Because his Rebbe understands his Hasid, understands life a little better than he does, and needs direction. So a real blessing is helping a person fulfill their potential. Unless you believe in voodoo. Now, so God's saying the Jewish people one day, when they become a nation in their own land, they can be a blessing to other peoples. Got that? No. But Chumash only told us that in Lech Lecha. We never heard what God's purpose. What was the goal of that? Understand? You expect Chumash to tell us earlier. Chumash waits to this point to tell us why, not why Avraham was chosen, but why Avraham was chosen. Do you understand the difference? There's one question: why did God pick Avraham over anybody else? And there's another: why is God picking anybody? I'll give you an example. Why did God pick Noach? And why did God pick Noach? You understand the difference between the two? Right? No, it's why did God pick Noach? What's Chumash say? He's a tzaddik, right? But why did God pick Noach? Why did he pick anybody? Because he decided to recreate. Right? It wasn't God saw, oh, what a righteous man, let's get rid of everybody else. God decided first to recreate. Read Chumash. Right? Now that I'm recreating, I need somebody, I need a CEO to organize my recreation process. I got to pick the best specimen possible around. So who's he pick? Noach. Why? Because he was a tzaddik.
You could have started from scratch all of
He could have, but he didn't. But when it's over, he says, I can't even do that again. But God decides to recreate, and he uses Noach for the purpose of recreation. Anyone see the movie Noach? Noah? Yeah. There's a great drash there. I don't think people like the Amkas. That movie was understanding that Noach's job was to recreate everything and get rid of humans, right? But I need one human to keep the animals alive, but therefore there's supposed to be no females on the boat. You saw that movie? Okay. And then Ham's wife stuck on the boat, but it said it was okay because the doctor said she can't have children. Did you see that movie? Okay. It wasn't Chumash, but it was really a good plot. It was really, and then Miyat Rachmim saves the day. Anyone see the movie? You know what I'm talking about? You never saw the movie Noah? Anyone saw the movie? Someone saw it a long time ago.
When was it?
About 10 years ago? 15 years ago? No one saw the movie Noah? Oh, busy learning. Okay. I have to watch movies because I teach teenagers, so I need to know what they're saying. Okay, for homework you can watch the movie and appreciate. Yeah, it's that. Never. Okay. It's like there's a medrash built into the movie, which is really nice. Never mind. Okay. I got off track again, and I'm going to run out of time. I have no idea what time it is. 10. We have till 10:15. Okay. So, what's Noach doing? I'm sorry. So, what's God saying? Now, ki dativ. Translate that for me. See if they got it wrong here. Yeah. 5. No, that. It doesn't say because I know, but rather, I came to know him for a reason. Or basically, I chose him for a reason. Why did I choose Avraham? Avraham was chosen to start a family tradition, to teach his children, and they their children, and they their children, to do what? To follow what's called Derech Hashem, the ways of God, to guard the ways of God, to do Tzedek u'Mishpat. In order for what? In order for God's vision of Avram to be a blessing for other nations, what does Avram need to do? Not just breathe, right? But rather, Avram has a destiny. What can happen, not what will be, but what can be. If Avram follows the ways of God, which is being the expert in doing tzedek u'mishpat, then we can become a nation bringing blessing. It's not our very existence that brings a blessing. It's our behavior that can bring a blessing, and that's our eternal destiny. Do we live up to it? That's up to us. According to Chumash, understand? And according to if you hold it, there's Bechara Chofshit. What can't change? We're always chosen. It's a Catholic marriage. Meaning, there's no possibility. God can't pick another nation, and can't. It's an eternal brit. It's a brit olam. If it'll work, that's our responsibility. It can work. That's God's responsibility. Got the understand? Just read all the Tochachot. We say it every day in Shema. Now, in light of that, you understand why the first two parshiot, the two first topics, are part of this whole unit? What's emphasized in the first topic? Haknasat Orchim, which is an example of Tzedek HaMishpat. If I want a whole book about what Derech Hashem is, the Ramchal wrote a whole book. You ever hear Derech Hashem of the Ramchal? It's a big Musar book. It's a book on Mishlei also, but it's a book about good behavior, isn't it? Balachta Bidrachav, isn't it all through Chumash, all through Devarim? Lalecha Bidrachav. So walking in God's ways is doing Mishpat and Tzedakah. If you do bad, Saru Maher Min HaDerech Asher Tzivitiv, remember before Chet HaEgel? We're off the derech already. Even nowadays, what does it mean to be off the derech? It means not doing tzedek u'mishpat. It doesn't mean missing davening. It means, derech Hashem is a way of life. Got it? All through Chumash. Now, therefore, why does God need to share this with Avraham Avinu? Because Avraham is going to have a child. How do we know that? We just found out about it, right? And now that he's finally going to have a child, and what zchut does he get the news? Haknasat Orchim. Got it? And what message does he have to say, not just at the bris, but at the bar mitzvah speech, at the weddings? You follow? Okay. We waited many years, right? But why did God bless us with this child? Because it's your job to keep this family tradition going of doing tzedek u'mishpat. How do you do it? Well, there's a guidebook later on we'll get called Torah. Understand? But that's why Derech Hashem is doing tzedek u'mishpat. Read examples from Nevi'im. It becomes a mega theme to the rest of Tanakh. If we're doing tzedek u'mishpat, God blesses us, watches over us. If we don't, boy, he gets angry. It's like a recurring theme all through Nevi'im. Is there any king who's described that he did tzedek u'mishpat? Like in his epitaph, what it's called? No, flip it over for a minute. Here. On top. Shmuel bet terchet. Vayimloch David al kol Yisrael. Vayi David oseh mishpat v'tzedakah l'chol amo. Only thing that which explains why he's chosen over Shaul. Who is his great-grandfather? Great-great-grandfather? Boaz. Who did Boaz marry? From? Coming together now? You see the tikkuns through the female? You understand why the story ends with the birth of Moab in the strangest situation? And we're going to save something out of the story. That can't be by chance. No. Now back to our story. Got it? Now, what I want to claim is what Chumash is telling us. Why does Avram need to know the ways of God? Because if God can punish a city that's evil, but is willing to give them another chance of what? If some people are okay, when God says, I'm going down to check out the cities to be on repair or not, what's Avram's assumption? If this guy finds everyone's fine, if everyone's evil, we'll get rid of it for sure. What happens if some people are really bad, but some people are good? Now what do? I'll give you a really bad example. Let's say there's terrorists hiding in a school building, right? And there's 1,000 terrorists in one innocent school child. Do we bomb it? Of course. Let's say it's a school with 1,000 students, innocent young children, and possibly one terrorist hiding in a classroom somewhere. Do we bomb it?
Which terrorist?
Well, which terrorist and who's running the government? But and if it's the UN on our back, and it depends who's president in America. But you understand the deliberation? That's exactly deliberation. There's advantages and disadvantages. What's God telling Avraham Avinu? What's Avraham need to know? That God is willing to wait and put out punishment on an evil society. On what condition? That there's at least a minion, right? Mm-hmm. Of people who care about the injustice. It's not 10 people sitting on the side doing daf yomi, eating klak kosher. That's not the 10. He's talking about 10 people who are going to be at the counter protest. Understand? Now, why does Avraham need to know that? Because Avraham needs to know the ways of God. Because that understanding of what God expects from man, what he expects from us, is key to why he's chosen. Now it makes perfect sense. Because what does God have now? He doesn't need, when he makes his decision, who's he look to? Not just Avram. What? He looks at people, right? When a society is bad, do people accept it or do they demonstrate? Do they do something about it? Did they start a community? Do they take action? Now, how does God know whether people care about injustice and whether people are willing to take action and what's going to motivate them to do that? We call that prayer. Understand? We call that tefillah.
But he knows the thoughts of man.
What?
He knows the thoughts of man.
Where does it say that?
What you're going to do.
Maybe you learned that in kindergarten, but it doesn't say that in Chumash. The Rambam doesn't say that. A lot of people say that, but that's like, there's no Bechira Chavshit then. What do you mean he knows what we're going to be? He knows that we'll make our own decision.
Okay, but he knows what that decision is going to be.
Where does it say that?
Because he's timeless.
That's something else. We don't understand what time is. But Chumash never says that. And the whole idea of Bechira Chavshit, the idea that it's already decided what we're going to do just destroys everything. Okay. That's a machloket. That's a class in philosophy. But in Chumash, man has Bechira Chavshit. And God holds man responsible for his actions. It doesn't say anywhere, I know what you're going to do anyhow. So, enjoy life. Right? Again, that's a philosophical argument. But the way Chumash, like 1,000 times, if you do good, I'll bless you, do bad, I'll punish you. And it's up to you. In Tetiv Se'et, in Lo Tetiv Lechatat Patat. So from the very beginning. Again, you could argue with Chumash and come up with a different philosophy, that's fine. It might be true, but I'm saying, if I'm teaching Chumash, in Chumash, it appears to be at least that we have a Bechira Chavshit. Now, is God above time? We don't know what time is. So it could be we don't understand time, whatever it is. That's a philosophical debate about how do we define time. Is God above time? And what time means? Ask Einstein. But that's complicated. I'm saying in Chumash, Pshat in Chumash is we have freedom of choice. Rambam Hilchot Tshuva is like explicit in that, isn't it? Now God made us. God knows that we'll make our own decision. So you can solve the problem that way if you want. God knowing. Like if I give you $100 to buy a present, and you buy a basketball, whatever it is, who bought the basketball? Did I buy it or did you buy it? Depends how you view the question. Now God gives us freedom of choice. Now back to here. Now in that story, what I'm trying to show you is that Avraham needs to understand this, and the reader of Chumash needs to understand this, because we need to understand why we're chosen, and that becomes a mega theme in Chumash. Now quickly, the only strange thing in this story is, if I'm going to follow Ramban, that they're complaining about Hachnasat Orchim, then the question is, the first Lot for sure does Hachnasat Orchim, doesn't he? He invites them in right away, and then when the whole city comes to demonstrate, he says, "Don't be evil." Remember? But he says the strangest thing. You know what? Take my 2 daughters instead. Yeah, which is really strange, which ends up happening in the end, but it's almost ironic. I mean, happening with himself. But the way I understand that story is like Reuven telling his father, "If I don't bring Binyamin back, you can kill my 2 sons, or I'll make fun of Riverdale for a minute. I'm not taking sides. Just for someone in Riverdale said, I'd sooner eat treif than vote for Trump. You follow? I'm just giving an example, but you understand what he's saying? He's not going to eat treif, but he's making a point how bad that is in his opinion. In his opinion, voting for Trump is worse than thing. Now, if he would say that in the 5 towns, he'd be stoned. Got it right? Because I'm just giving an example. When someone has a certain set of values, you follow? How do you prioritize? Now, Lot, because you grew up with Avraham Avinu, Hachnasat Orchim is the core value. He says, in my eyes, what? It's what? It's just as important as the honor of my 2 daughters. There's a mob of 1,000 people. You follow? That's not going to solve any problem. You follow? He's making a moral judgment of them, and the answer is right in Chumash. So what did they tell? He says, "Don't be evil. Take my 2 daughters," saying it sarcastically. And what did they say back? Echad balagor vayshpot shafot. What's that mean? You're new in town and you're being judgmental of us. Go back to Riverdale. You follow? You don't belong. That's that. Things don't work that way. I'm just only joking because I'm just bringing. I'm not judging the 2 sides. I'm just giving. I just want to give an analogy the way people talk, and an analogy where people's values. You follow? What's a higher value? You follow? Honesty, the thing, or the people of Israel. You follow? And it's a serious question. It's not an easy one. I'm not taking sides. I'm just showing you that I can see both extremes, and both extremes make perfect sense. You follow? It's called. There's always good reasons for sinat chinam. Now, all I'm saying is that people talk that way, and I think Lot is simply being judgmental, and therefore they don't like it. Why? And now what I want to do, I want to kick you out of town, remember? Now we do more evil to you than to them. Again, that's a whole topic. That's just my own take on it. And then there's no sodomy and Sedom. Got it? No. Got my point? It's not about sodomy. And all through Nevi'im, all the Nevi'im talk about Sedom when we're really bad. We're as bad as Sedom. And they never said because we're doing sodomy or anything like that. It's always that. Now take a look on the flip page. Okay, Yeshayahu. I shared about the Pesukim in Yecheskel. If you remember Yecheskel says explicitly in chapter 16, Tetzayin, he's Zehayavod Sedom. Do I have it on here? No, I don't have Yecheskel. Oh, the bottom of the first page. It had to be there. Okay, my mistake. Okay, it's right there. Hine Zehayavod Sedom achotech, gon tzivat lechem b'shabbat bashkei, v'yad ani v'evion lo yichzika, and they became haughty. So it's Mufurash, the Yecheskel was what? It was a gated community. And that's why God's so angry. Now, those same words, Saka, Erdana ve'ereh. Do you remember ever read the book of the book called Exodus? Not the movie, but the book, right? How's it begin? There's a tzaka. God hears a tzaka. He says, I'm going to go down and see what's going to be. Remember? What's God tell Moshe Rabbeinu with the burning bush? Ro'or ra'iti, et oni yemesher b'mitzrayim, et tzakatam shamati, ve'erei latzol b'mitzrayim. Remember? The same verbs. Erdada ve'ereh. By Migdal Bavel, you have the same thing. Right? When God sees oppression and injustice, that God abhors that. And therefore, the Jewish people have to be known for learning. If they're going to be oppressed in Egypt, they redeem that oppression by not doing that to others. That's all through Chumash. That becomes a mega thing. Now, the theme of Tzedek u'Mishpat, just to show you how central it is in Navi, I just brought the examples on the other side. In Tehillim Perek Ayin Bet, when David decides that, or God helped him, that Shlomo is going to take over and build the temple and take over his kingdom, he writes a psalm, or what they call it, an ethical will, for who? For his son, Shlomo. What's he tell him? It's the end of book 2 in Tehillim. L'Shlomo elim mishpatech lemelech tem v'tzitchatcha leben melech yedinam cha b'tzedek v'yanecha b'mishpat. You see the theme? You can't miss, that's a mega theme, and I think they call him Mashiach, don't they? And there's so many stories, negative stories about David. But what makes him Mashiach? His understanding of what the purpose of the Jewish people are and what the purpose of a Jewish nation is and what leadership needs to be focusing on. Because when he becomes king, that's his big focus, is doing Tzedek u'Mishpat l'chol hamo, and it's exactly emphasized by Navi everywhere. Here, and then in Tehillim, and then Hisu Arim, Yishba Sholem Lab, etc. And then Pasuk Yud Aleph, Vayishtakru lo l'chom melachim kogim yavdu. Other nations should look and appreciate him. Why? Now, other nations will come and visit and see our social justice, how kind we are, how nice we are, what we do with our how we run our society. They'll be impressed and they'll respect us for how we behave. It's a very sort of left-wing vision of Israel, but that's what Tehillim talks about. Kabbalat Shabbat has a lot of tzedek u'mishpat, isn't it? It's a theme all through Tehillim, especially here. Remember the Queen of Sheba comes to visit? That's like the high point. That's like a highlight in Jewish history. Shlomo's got it all. Everything. He's rich, and she comes to check it out. She heard all these things, and she asks all her questions. He has answers. But at the end of the story, she gives him a little blessing. See in Pasachet, in Menachem Aleph Perek Yud. He says, Ashrei Nashecha, Ashrei Avadecha, Elom Dim Lefenecha, Tamid Hashem Mechachmatecha, Yashem Lekecha Baruch, Asher Chafetz B'chad Titcha, Al Kisei Yisrael, B'avat Hashem Yitzol Olam, B'simcha Lemelech, Lasot Mishpat U'Tzedakah. The grand visit of everyone thinks, oh, Shlomo's so smart and he answers all of her riddles. That's the classic midrash. In Pshat, what's she impressed by? She comes to visit because she heard about the name. Shlomo's famous for his wisdom and for his wealth. When they come to visit, another nation sees what we do with our wealth and what we do with our wisdom. I think we read in Yirmiyahu, Aytelo chacham b'chochmato, Aytelo gibor b'gvuroto, Aytel asher b'oshro. Remember Haskel v'yodoti ki ani Hashem osem mishpat tzedakah ba'aretz ki be'elach hafatzti. Yeah, that's going to be the Haftorah on Tisha B'av morning from Yirmiyahu Perek Tet. I could bring half of Yirmiyahu with the same theme of mishpat and tzedakah. He says he tells the king of Tzidkiyahu, if you continue mishpat and tzedakah, you can save the temple in the city. You don't fix your society, you're finished. Now, and Yishayahu, which we all know, I'm thinking all the haftarot that the rabbis picked for Churban HaBayit, are all based on, right, not idol worship, but rather an unjust society. Because we were davening to God, but God, yeah. Now, why is God sending us? Sure. Remember Yishayahu, Shimu Dvar Hashem K'sinei Sedom Asinu Torah Tavim Am Amorah? Says, you people are acting like Sedom and Amorah because they're doing sodomy? No. But rather, what's he say? Lamed Librov Sifchechem. He says, don't give me that bull. Chodshechem Odechem Sana Nafshi. Someone got the joke, okay. I hate your holidays, your Rosh Chodesh parties, your Yom Tovim. Ufrischem Chapechem, when you lift up your hand in prayer and I'm not listening to you. Why? Because you're full, you don't care about human life. Okay? Remember? The city was great, full of mishpat and tzedakah, and now everything's counterfeit, your leaders are lying, everyone's taking shochad. You follow? Lack of honesty, lack of kindness, full of sinat chinam and everything. Right? And you think God can let that happen? This could be not a whistleblower, but a shofar blower, if you follow the Nevi'im. And therefore, what will bring redemption? Understand? You can't miss that theme. What I'm getting at is that if that's such a recurring theme in Tehillim and all through the Nevi'im, and whenever there's a disaster, all the Nevi'im blame it on a lack of mishpat and tzedakah. And this is the last time that God talks to himself in Chumash. Got it? And the last time, and the first time he has a board member. Got it? Everything's pointing to this story and the build-up. That's why I gave the build-up in the beginning. It's got to be a key moment in biblical history because it's the last time God talks to himself. The first time he has a heart-to-heart conversation with Avraham Avinu about his future. There's only 2 dialogues between God and Avraham Avinu. No dialogues with God and Yitzchak and none with Yaakov. There's 2 dialogues with our ancestors, both with Avraham. The first is Brit Ben Abkarim, which is how we're going to become the historical process of becoming a nation, which requires going through suffering. Remember, Inui, under someone else, and then redemption to become a nation that won't do that to others. And that's the whole theme of Yetziat Mitzrayim. And the second one, the story of Sedom about Mishpat and Tzedakah. Okay? One is what not to do, and the other is what you need to do. And those shape our future, don't they? And they're all through our prayer service. And when we pray, now I go back, what do I mean? Avram isn't praying to save Sedom in the story, but rather, what's he doing? God wants Avram to understand why he's chosen. He's using the story of Sedom as an educational message. That what? That a small group of people in an evil society can have an impact. That what? Let's say it's our duty to praise God by how we talk and how we act. And that's why we're different. But our hope is that through our praise of God and our behavior, other nations will come and recognize God and behave properly. What did I just quote? The introduction in your Machzor to Malchiot, and what we say every day in Aleinu, isn't it? It's our duty to praise God, and that's why we're different to other nations. That's why he chose us. And our hope is that through our praise of God, other nations will recognize God and behave properly and get rid of evil. Get rid of it. It's all through davening. Now, you make a name for God, but you talk about God and about how you behave. But if the people talking about God are unjust and cheat and steal and are unkind, etc., then that's a chilul Hashem all through Chumash. I'm saying it's a mega theme all through Nevi'im, in all of our tefillot, etc. And therefore, one could argue that prayer means to argue. Who can explain why? Why can one argue that prayer means to argue? Because that's what the word means. And Leitpalel, Plilim, what's Plilim mean in Chumash? Judges, right? Now, when you're an advocate arguing your case, you're not saying, oh, you're wrong, I'm right. Okay? You don't say, God, oh, you're wrong, I'm right, but rather, you're arguing your case trying to convince the judge to change his decision. But what will convince the judge that he should listen to your decision? If he sees sincerity. There's a major difference between saying some magic words, right, or understanding between what I call kavana and havana. There's a difference between understanding your relationship with God, why you're chosen. Remember, we're employees of God, not consumers. And God's reputation, it's God's name and reputation is riding on our behavior. And we have the ability to sanctify God by being his model nation, by how we behave. And when you remember that, and God could punish us for bad behavior, but he could save us if we show that we're ready to change our ways, it's called tshuva, then that gives God a reason to give us a good judgment. And one could argue, that's what tefillah is. Some people have a custom that before they ask for anything, they ask God for wisdom to make the right decision. Right? And they ask God, listen, maybe I know what I did. You can't do tshuva if you don't know what you did wrong. So the first thing to do tshuva, you have to know what you're doing wrong. But some people pray to God, give me the wisdom you gave me, let me use it to the best way possible to know what's right and wrong. Remember, and now I know what I did wrong, maybe help me want to do better. It's called harotzeh b'tshuva. And in light of that, maybe forgive me for what we've done wrong and let's start over again. In light of that, maybe give us refuah, etc. You understand? Now, if that's how some people have that custom, don't they? Yeah, not on Shabbos. Shabbos we just asked to serve God with honesty. I think something like that. But Tara Libenu, no, not the times then we're workers and not consumers, and we shouldn't be phony. And we're working for God, not God working for us. So those are all key themes in davening, and therefore, so Chazal learned prayer from Sedom, not it? Now, what pasuk they pick? Vayashkem Avraham baboker. That's the next morning, isn't it? And he sees Sedom up in flames, etc. And then what happened? And at the end of the day, what happened? Did God save Lot or not? Why? He said, what do you mean, brother? What did Avraham say? Yeah. Now, I'm going to base myself on Rambam Hilchot Tshuva. If I remember right, Rambam Hilchot Tshuva, he says, God's hashgacha is on like general, on community, on society. For special tzaddikim, there's what's called hashgacha pratis. But general hashgacha is in general. Like when it rains, it's on everybody. When there's an earthquake, it's on everybody. And more the way of nature is, haftis pet tzaddikim rasha is not questioning God, saying that's the way things are. Because when disasters happen, everyone gets punished. It's a group thing. But God usually doesn't do surgical raids to save some innocent guy. Understand? Now, unless you have hashgacha prati. Now, why is God saving Lot? Because he's a tzaddik. We know he's a tzaddik from the story. But why is God saving a tzaddik even though usually he doesn't save a tzaddik? Because God remembered Avraham. You follow? And what did Avraham say? Haftis pet tzaddikim rasha. So Lot is saved because he's a tzaddik, but God saved the tzaddik from potential disaster because of Avram's prayer. Because sometimes you pray, if you show God in prayer how much you care and you're willing to serve God, sometimes you get protection. Because it's worth it in God's eyes to give you protection because you can help Him if you build that nation the right way. That, in my opinion, that's tefillah. And that's why Chazal learned tefillah from this story of Vayashkem Avraham baboker. Got my point? Okay, there's tons more, but I just wanted to give you a taste of the story of Sedom, why it's so important. And when we view the stories, all that's about sodomy, you follow? It just ruins, when people remember Sedom, Lot and his daughters and sodomy, you follow? It takes everything out of it, you follow? It's this story that explains why we're chosen, the whole theme of Hachnasat Orchim, Tzedek u'Mishpat, and how we bring up our children. And what zchut God gives us children, and what we do with our children, and how we educate them. And those become mega themes through the Navi. It's not taught that often, but I think it's important. It's important to understand what's. It's a very basic concept in tefillah, and how Chazal learned tefillah. Now, how did Avraham daven by Sedom? I mean, by the Akedah. I think that's called implicit davening. When God says, what did God say? Hashem, like says, Ayeh Elola. And what's Avraham say? God will show us the right thing to do. That's prayer, isn't it? How do I know that's Avram's prayer? Because did God answer his prayer? Because he did. God showed him the egel. Remember, it was stuck in the thorns over there. And what's Avram called the place? Means God answered my prayer. And what was Yitzchak's prayer? Ayeh Elola. Sometimes prayer is implicit. Sometimes you have to dive into prayer. Sometimes prayer comes out in your personality. It's in your mind. So in your day-to-day conversations, there's implicit prayer sometimes. So it's also, you don't have to dive into prayer. You have to dive into remember how you have to behave, so the prayer becomes meaningful. Okay. So we'll stop here and we'll pick up in. What? Also Vayashkem baboker. Prayer, yeah. Sorry. And prayer before you went. Yeah, I hope this comes out okay. You're from the 5 towns, like that. I'm going to get in trouble for that, but I hope I made myself clean on that. That was okay.
That was cute.
Okay.
I have a question. First, just, you have to wait, sir. What was that? Why